You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You are not denying that FBI agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Corrections Squad, reassigned. People who defend us, defend children, reassigned. This committee, sir, you don't tell me my time is over. The people of New Jersey tell me what my time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me my time's over?
You may be the charge of the FBI,
I'm not going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you,
Mr. Chairman.
I'm not afraid of you.
Before Kash Patel became the FBI director, he said something that nobody in Washington has been able to explain away. He said the Epstein files had not been released because of who is on that list. Those were his exact words on camera before he took the job. He was a critic at the time, calling out the government for hiding the truth. He said the only reason the American public had not seen the full files was because of who was named in them. Then something happened. He became the FBI director. He was put in charge of the very files he had been demanding be released. And then the releases started coming out, heavily redacted, pages completely blacked out, names hidden, hundreds of pages in some, releases entirely unreadable. And a watchdog group filed a formal complaint noting something deeply strange. Of the millions of pages released, only a handful of communications from Kash Patel himself appeared in the files, despite him being deeply involved in the entire release process. Is that normal? Is it possible that the man who once said the files were being hidden because of who is on that list is now the man deciding what gets released and what stays hidden? And here is the question that Senator Cory Booker has been building toward across multiple hearings. If Kash Patel lied under oath about knowing the plans to purge the FBI before he was confirmed, if he admitted on camera that he speaks frequently with White House political operative Stephen Miller about his job, about his decisions, about who stays and who goes at the FBI, and if he refused to answer whether Trump's name appears anywhere in the files he is withholding, then what exactly is happening at the nation's premier law enforcement agency right now? Watch this hearing carefully, because what Senator Booker says at the end of it is not just an accusation, it is a warning.
Mr. Patel, I want to start off where we left off last time. I asked you whether you had any knowledge or discussions about removing FBI officials and installing political personnel before you were confirmed to that position. And I wonder, did you then understand or have conversations with the White House about the intentions to do so?
Before I was confirmed?
Yes, sir.
Did I have discussions with the White House to remove FBI personnel?
Yes.
No.
So you're saying that you had no discussions with the White House before you were in the position about the removal of any personnel from the agency?
As I was preparing for my confirmation hearing, I had numerous discussions involving the type of people that would be employed, and that those that were failing to meet the mark at the FBI would no longer be employed if I were confirmed.
And I'm assuming that mark had to do with loyalty to the Trump administration.
No, you're wrong.
Okay. I'd like to revisit another subject from that hearing. Did you testify, excuse me, you did testify before the grand jury that President Trump had declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Is that correct?
I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. Whatever it says is the best evidence.
You know, that's what you said to Senator Whitehouse, that your grand jury testimony was publicly released. It has not been. In fact, in July, a court denied a news outlet's bid to get that transcript. But the court said quite clearly that you are free to discuss your grand jury testimony. So I ask you again, did you testify before the grand jury that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified document case?
And that is why I took your invitation to work with the department and the court to have that transcript released. And the transcript is the best evidence of what I said then.
So you're saying right now this committee can have access to what you said before the grand jury?
To whatever was released. Under my understanding, Senator, that the Department of Justice
You and I
released...
both understand the law. Let me finish. I understand under Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Procedure, a grand jury witness, in this case you, is not barred from sharing their grand jury testimony. This is an oversight hearing. This is germane to your integrity and credibility. You know right now whether or not you testified that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Why are you refusing to answer that simple yes or no question right now?
Because the premise of your question is inaccurate, and
There is no premise to my question, but trying to get to an order of what is truth or not.
How do you
Did
know
you
what,
or
how,
did you?
how do you know what was asked in the grand jury if you weren't there?
Mr. Patel, this is a mockery you're making of this hearing and simple questions.
It's a simple question. If you have
Mr.
a
Patel,
transcript,
during
you can
your
read the question,
nomination,
but you don't have it.
You promised that, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. When I asked you, are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with the Trump administration, you explicitly said under oath that you were not aware of any plans to punish FBI agents associated with criminal investigations of Donald Trump. I don't believe you were truthful. Firing FBI employees based solely on the cases that they are investigating, their case assignments, is illegal, and you know that. A new lawsuit that's been discussed numerous times, filed by 3 FBI officials, alleges that you carried out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution, in quotes, against FBI employees for, quote, failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. One of those plaintiffs has been discussed today, Brian Driscoll. Now, we know 20 years of distinguished service to the FBI before you terminated him. Special agent in charge of FBI's Newark field office, where he operated with distinction. Medal of Valor winner, Shield of Bravery awards. He's a patriot. You terminated Driscoll via a letter dated October 8th, 2025, and in that letter you said that you were firing him pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution. Well, you're not the President of the United States, and so I'm wondering under what authority you were allowed to terminate him.
That matter is under litigation, and I'm not able to discuss it.
Okay, well, discuss this. Did you have discussions with Stephen Miller about firing this particular person or about his continuance in the FBI?
Not that I recall.
How often do you speak to Stephen Miller?
Frequently on our Homeland Security task forces.
You frequently talk with Stephen Miller about subjects other than Homeland Security task force issues, correct?
I frequently talk to Mr. Miller about Homeland Security task forces.
Has Stephen Miller ever given you his opinions on how to run your agency?
Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable to success of the FBI. That's what we talk about.
So you frequently discuss your job and your responsibilities with Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. She's the Attorney General.
Understood. Okay. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. You've shifted the agency's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. Part of this operation is the work of mass law enforcement who jump out of cars, snatch people off streets at churches, schools, and their jobs and hospitals. Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement, yes or no?
The premise of what you say is entirely false.
Have there been any FBI agents who investigate foreign domestic terrorism?
You don't get to say America is not safer under this leadership.
I am not saying
America
that.
is safer because of the work of the FBI.
You're making a presumption of premise.
4,700 children.
Sir,
we have seized 6,000 weapons and 23,000 violent felons have been arrested.
That FBI agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Correction Squad, reassigned. People who defend children, reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption. And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the Bureau, but here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this, I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes,
at this
sir.
point?
So here is what you just watched. And here is the documented picture behind all of it. Senator Booker made 3 specific accusations in that hearing room, not opinions, specific documented claims. First, that Kash Patel lied under oath during his confirmation. Patel promised that all FBI employees would be protected against political retribution. He explicitly said under oath he was not aware of any plans to punish FBI agents connected to investigations of Trump. And then those agents were purged, hundreds of them. Senator Booker cited a lawsuit filed by 3 FBI officials alleging that Patel carried out a campaign of retribution against employees for failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. One of those officials, Brian Driscoll, had 20 years of distinguished service, a Medal of Valor, and a Shield of Bravery award. He was terminated via a letter citing Article 2 of the Constitution. Patel is not the president. Article 2 authority belongs to the president, not the FBI director. How is that termination legal? Second, that Patel admitted on camera under oath that he speaks frequently with Stephen Miller, a White House political operative, not just about Homeland Security, but about his job, his agency, and by implication, personnel decisions. The man running the FBI is taking direction from a White House political operative, and he said it out loud under oath like it was completely normal. Third, and this is where it connects to the Epstein question, Patel was asked directly whether Trump's name appears anywhere in the files he is withholding from the public. He refused to answer. He claimed court orders were tying his hands. Courts have reviewed that claim and found no such orders exist. The courts have actually encouraged the FBI and DOJ to release files in their custody. So what exactly is preventing the release? Here is what the documented record shows. Before Patel became director, he said on a podcast that the only reason the Epstein files had not been released was because of who is on that list. That video exists. It has been played in congressional hearings. Congressman Jamie Raskin played it directly to Patel's face during a September 2025 hearing and asked him the most devastating question possible. How did you go from being a crusader for transparency to being part of the cover-up? Raskin said Patel answered that question himself when he said, because of who's on that list. Patel's own communications have barely appeared in the millions of pages released. A formal watchdog complaint was filed, noting this absence and calling it deeply troubling. The DOJ said it complied with the law, but a poll conducted in January 2026 found that nearly half of Republicans, 3/4 of independents, and 9 in 10 Democrats believe the government is withholding information. And now the FBI itself, under Patel's leadership, has diverted 20% of its agents away from their core missions to assist with immigration enforcement, human trafficking task forces reassigned, foreign intelligence task forces reassigned, public corruption squads reassigned. The people who were supposed to follow the money on Epstein, investigate foreign influence, protect children, are now being used for immigration roundups. And Senator Booker asked the most important question of all: who benefits from all of this? Corrupt people benefit, criminals benefit. And as Booker said directly, Vladimir Putin benefits when America's counterintelligence capacity is gutted. And then there is the Epstein question that never gets fully answered. Not by Patel, not by Bondi, not by anyone. Kash Patel once said the files were hidden because of who is on that list. He now controls those files. Those communications are barely in the released documents. Trump's name was blacked out repeatedly until caught on camera. A formal complaint has been filed about the missing communications of the 3 people most involved in this release. Is the man who once told the world the truth about why the files were hidden now the man responsible for keeping them hidden? We do not know the answer to that question yet. But the behavior of everyone involved in answering it keeps raising the same suspicion. And 14 years, as Patel himself admitted, is how long it will take to fill the vacancies left behind by his purge. 14 years of institutional damage, 14 years before the FBI gets back to where it was. Why would anyone do that to the nation's premier law enforcement agency unless the goal was specifically to make sure certain investigations never happen? That is a question only the full unredacted truth can answer. And right now, the person holding that truth will not sit under oath and explain why it is still hidden. If you think accountability matters, subscribe and stay with us. This story has far more to uncover.